The fun part of the show, predictions. So, what do you have to predict? Now that we've seen Loki episode 4, we've kind of given our opinion on it. What are your next big predictions? I'm very curious to know that you
Speak bef-
could bring something forth that I haven't already, because let me tell you
Oh
something.
man.
I got to pat
Oh God.
myself on
Hey,
the
yeah.
back.
You know what? You know what? I was actually about to give you your
No,
flowers.
no,
I was
no, no,
actually about to
no.
congratulate.
I knew you were going to, because I am the TVA.
Ah, fuck.
No, no, but
get,
go ahead.
get
Seriously.
pruned. No, I was about to say, we got to bring attention to the fact that this man's been killing all of his predictions. I would also like to pat myself in the back because I said a few episodes ago that I thought the TVA were gonna be some Wizard of Oz type
You
shit.
did.
Didn't realize they'd be Chuck E. Cheese animatronics,
Oh,
but
you
hey,
stole my bit. You
it's
stole
all
my
good.
bit. There you
It's
go.
all good. It's all good. But from what we've learned, now that it's like defined that the timekeepers aren't real,
Hmm.
but somebody else is controlling all this. I believe that we're going to discover it's less to do with who it is, but I believe we're going to discover that the TVA was actually formed to track down Loki's
Mm,
across timelines because since they're like the gods of mischief, they're very
yep.
unpredictable and they're hard to trace and track. And I believe that it's once that Loki, like you said, all Lokis are supposed to become good at the
Yeah.
end, and those that survive in their timelines, I think those are the biggest threat to whoever's in charge of anything. So he goes around, he sends people around, he or she sends people around the timelines to capture them and bring them all to one
Yeah.
place. And we're gonna find out like what that big plan is.
So
In regards to name, oh, go
I
ahead.
was just gonna say, to piggyback off that, I definitely could see that happening, because clearly when you brought two Lokis together, that created some nexus type of event, and
Yeah.
I think that we're all thinking that there's a romantic chemistry there, but I think it's just really any chemistry potentially between two Lokis, and I think this place where Loki's been shipped away looks like friggin' Afghanistan. Um, no, but it's actually what it actually is. I believe is New York after Thanos had killed Loki.
Oh my
Yeah, I
god,
think it's so.
what?
That's my prediction. What it kind of looked like. I don't know if they'll actually answer
Dude,
that,
it looks like the new Call of Duty Warzone map, if you ask me.
because you can see Stark Tower in the back, but it's not like.
Oh shit.
Yeah, we'll have to pull
Damn, I
that
didn't
up at some
notice.
point. I'll in post I'll add it, but you can actually see Stark Tower in the back. So I think, to your point, that there is some type of thing going on, and maybe this place
Mhm.
where these Lokis are currently being put is like where they finally get executed. What I'm curious about is, why don't they just execute them there? But perhaps it goes back into the whole thing that Loki can't die because he always comes back.
Mm.
You know?
That's crazy. So it's better to just keep them somewhere where they can't escape
Right.
than to try and kill them.
Exactly.
Which is funny. It's funny if they actually come up with like a logical explanation for like why Loki's died a thousand
Yeah.
times and comes back.
Exactly.
But yeah, and then on top of that, it's just I heard names float around like Kang the
Yep.
Conqueror, who I just learned about,
Hmm.
and I know before everyone freaks out about Mephisto again. Kang the Conqueror is actually a he's kind of like for those who've watched like DC,
Hmm.
he's very similar to Brainiac in the
Ooh.
sense where Brainiac is like an alien that travels the universe, shrinking places and stealing cities and stuff.
Hmm.
Where Kang the Conqueror travels time through time and kind of collects trinkets. And I think that's why some people thought like Ravonna Renslayer might be like aligned with him because she has kind of a collection of items,
Yeah.
but on a smaller scale. And Kang the Conqueror is said to be a villain in one of the future projects, I believe. The Ant-Man and the Wasp, I think Quantumania or
Yeah.
something. So it kind of lines up there. I don't really know how it goes because it's all up in the air.
Yeah.
But lastly, I think that there is intimacy between Loki and
Hmm.
Sylvie, and that it's a metaphor for Loki developing self-love
Hmm.
and coming to accept himself, both literally and
Yeah,
metaphorically.
that's interesting, because the last episode, or the episode before, I kind of touched on that, where I said he's a narcissist, and so he loves
Mhm.
himself, and he actually ends up saying that in this episode, which is interesting. But I like how you are looking at that from a perspective of positivity, And I do think that makes sense where it's like about self love. That makes a ton of sense because she's kind of like this different version of him. And what's interesting with Sylvie too is like I was wondering why did the TVA take her out of the timeline? And she says this whole line about saving Asgard. And I think to play back
Mm,
into your prediction and theory that perhaps this Loki was going to be a good Loki, which
yeah,
goes back into my theory that they all turned out good, and perhaps that's not what
exactly.
the TVA wants or
Exactly. That
TVA.
the scene of her actually, she's actually playing with a Valkyrie, like a
Mm-hmm.
doll that's supposed to represent the
Yeah.
Valkyries, who are the female war fighters for
Mm-hmm.
Asgard, the legendary
On the
fighters.
horses and all.
So yeah, so I'm like, that would have been really fucking cool.
Yeah.
But what about you, man? You got any hot takes, any cool mind bombs
So
for us?
I've been giving like pretty good takes and predictions on this.
I
So
don't mean to toot my own horn, but
I am going to toot my own horn. I've done great, which is why you guys should subscribe because we
you
have the
should.
best takes, honestly. And
Exactly.
you know why we have really good takes? It's because we're into the comics and stuff, but like we're not reading it like everyone else. We're not like making all
Mhm.
these crazy theories. So we're just watching it as two guys who love television and movies. And because we're putting
Indeed.
those pieces together, we don't have that like bias that a lot of these other big YouTubers do. Um,
Indeed.
and so our perspectives, not that the other people's perspectives aren't fresh and fun. Like I really love New Rock Stars and a couple of other different pages, but I think our perspective is kind of from the common man perspective of, hey, we're just watching these TV shows and movies and thinking about, hey, what I want to see, what would I as a fan think would make the next logical sense. So
For sure, yeah.
before I get into my prediction, I just want to say that. So my crazy take that I have is that Mobius
Oh
will
fuck.
come back, obviously, but
I hope
I'm
so.
wondering if he's a Loki variant himself because
Oh
he said
fuck.
this weird line about you can turn into whoever you want to Loki, and I didn't understand that. I was like, in that moment, I didn't realize that Mobius was gonna die. I thought like Loki was gonna kind of get them out of it by him turning into Mobius, them being confused of like which one is which. But then they just never did anything with it,
Mm,
which I was like, maybe that was just more him giving him like confidence type of thing.
yeah.
But it was weird because he didn't say you can be whoever you want. He said you can transform into whoever you want, which I was like, maybe transform means
Mm,
something because the whole
that's a good point.
the whole forming into things. But that's what I'm like. That's my crazy take. My more grounded take is I think we'll see my theory that all Lokis are good in the end come true, but I think there's one Loki that is actually evil and perhaps behind all of this. And I also think that there's going to be some type of council or congress amongst the different Lokis. And I think
Congress of
yeah,
Lokis.
yeah, and I think there's gonna be this Congress of Lokis, and they're gonna decide that our Loki is the superior Loki.
The Council of Ricks.
No, yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think the reason, just like one quick note on that,
Mm-hmm.
and a little bit of pushback. This goes to my own thing too. I'm curious to see who the big baddie ends up
Yeah.
being, because I think it's usually a short selling when a villain isn't someone that's been kind of like hinted at throughout the episode, throughout the show.
Sure.
Like a last minute thing just seems kind of weird. So like a Kang the Conqueror reveal can be pretty jarring and odd.
Mm-hmm.
But with an evil Loki, and since Loki's been like the source of this,
Yeah.
and like has been like the driving force of this entire thing, we were already given the evil Loki at the beginning with Sylvie,
Hmm.
and there might be room to do another one, but it kind of seems like it would be. I'm a little hesitant to think that it could just be another evil
Let me
Loki
push
because it
back.
feel like it would just be a retread.
So, I think that's interesting that you say that, and I do agree to accept, but I'm just gonna play the devil's advocate. I think the Sylvie was never an evil Loki, though. I think that was
It's like a red herring.
Yeah, I think that was the perception the TVA wanted us to have. So
Mm,
we actually haven't seen a quote unquote evil Loki. And we've seen
yeah.
that Sylvie has her actions against Loki were never like evil, mean, or bad, which is why she quickly turned around and was like, "Hey, you're not that bad." It was just kind of more of like this typical Loki thing of I got to protect myself first. But I'm talking, I think there might be a Loki variant out there who is just like, I'm the dominant one. I don't want to work with you guys. Whatever. I just, and again, it's just theory, so who knows? But it is to your point with the King or Kong,
Kang.
Kang. That's kind of a weird name, but whatever. I think Kang, if that just kind of pops in, it's fine with me. However,
Yeah.
I do think, again, to my point I was making before I made these predictions, it's like to us who are just watching this TV show and movie, we don't know who this guy is. So it's like he just pops up out of nowhere. And I guess, did
Yeah.
they do that with Thanos?
No. The Avenger. I guess like at the end of
Hmm.
Avengers, he was hinted,
Yeah.
and then it was like a 10-year thing.
Right.
It was like almost like 7 years.
So
So
that's why I just think it to introduce someone like, hey, this is Kang, it might be a lot. And the other thing too, real quick before we wrap this up, is originally Disney did not know that Disney Plus and the TV shows were going to be what they were. So
true.
I think if they would have invested all this time to put the new quote unquote Thanos into this television show, it might have been a big gamble because we didn't know if this Disney Plus thing was going to take off. So then it's like, all right, now you do Black Widow or whatever, Blade, and this Kang shows up and everyone's like, who is this? You know? So,
Yeah. I think I agree. I think that if Kang is going to show up, if Kang is slated to show up in another Disney Plus
yeah.
property, it might work
Yeah.
because it kind of might be the through
Hmm.
line. But then it kind of, lends you to believe like, okay, how does he get defeated here,
Right.
and how
So
does
he
he go
can't be
into the next
defeated.
thing? He could be
Hmm.
defeated or momentarily like disabled, but yeah, I agree with
And
you. But it'll be interesting, whoever it ends up
yeah.
being, unless it's like a dog shit reveal and they just fall flat on their
Yeah.
face at the end. I think it's gonna be a satisfying
Yeah, I
ending.
think actually I'd be okay even if we don't really get an ending, and that's kind of part of the ending, but we get this low key ending and he's happy with himself. What I will
Yeah.
say is maybe this is just the film producer in the back of my head is we're seeing the Marvel slate. It's in this green, which they never really mess with, and the whole Marvel thing is green. I'm wondering if that's because this is an origin story for a bad guy in the end. So I don't know, like so maybe that kind of leans more into my theory that Loki does become the ultimate evil Loki. I don't go. I don't know. I don't know, and no one knows.
Oh
But
shit. If yeah.
but I do think, and I've mentioned this before in the previous episodes that we've done, that they're building towards this anti-Avengers type of crew, and who better to lead that crew than Loki? So I guess we'll have
That's
to find
interesting.
out. We'll have to find out.
Indeed.
But all right, what predictions do you guys have? Was this fun for you to just play around and have silly ideas back
Mm-hmm.
and forth? Are we
Yeah.
ridiculous? Uh,
If you still think Mephisto is going to be the main bad guy, comment down below why you believe that.
Yeah, and again, with predictions, they're supposed to be fun. Like people get way too serious about prediction. It's like it's just supposed to be a fun thing, and you're like, oh wow, that
Yeah.
happened or it didn't. But I always say, don't get too attached to any theory, even if you read the
Mm,
comics, because it's just supposed
yeah.
to be a fun ride that you're going down. But definitely
Yeah.
subscribe.
Don't.
Go ahead, Matt.
I was just gonna say, don't let the expectations ruin your enjoyment of the products
Absolutely,
at the end of the day.
absolutely. So again, comment down below. Be kind to each other. If you like something, like it. If you don't, you don't. Don't try to fit in. Just be you. We love you all. Subscribe. Thank you for watching. And yeah.